I've been wondering all summer what kind of a room I'd have.
You don't get the afternoon sun, all that glare.
Your room is close, isn't it? So I can come to you if I need help. I'll probably be there every day.
My room's right up the hall.
You know, it's so nice that the new teachers have older teachers, I mean more experienced teachers, to help them.
We always try to help the new teachers. We think it gets them off to a better start that way.
Class, the first thing I want you to do, just about the first thing I've asked you to do, is to answer some questions about history.
Miss Davis, this is a test. We haven't studied for it yet.
No, this is what's called a pre-test. I only want to get some idea about...
But our grades! This is only the first day of school.
This isn't going to count on your grades. I only want to get some idea about what you already know, so we won't waste time going over it again. I don't want you to be bored. I started off with a pre-test this morning, Mrs. Harrison, and I'm afraid I got off on the wrong foot. The students hadn't had a pre-test before, and they were worried about their grades.
I don't think getting off on the right foot matters so much as getting in step eventually.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, I've made a list of all the things I've wanted to ask you, is about grading. Is there any policy in the school or the school district concerning grading? Oh, I've seen the report card, but that doesn't help much. A stands for work of outstanding quality, that sort of thing.
Well, there's no formal rule in the school district about grades, just what's stated on the report card. However, some of us feel that since most of our students will be going on to college, we should begin setting high standards now, here in the junior high school. We feel that an A should stand for really excellent work, that not many students in a class should have A's. After all, we all need something to work toward.
But if it's impossible to get an A, how long will the students work toward the impossible?
It's not impossible, Helen. There's no formal rule in the school about grades, but many of the teachers here follow a certain pattern. Following a pattern makes it easier to explain grades to students and their parents. You've never had a parent conference yet, but we find it easier to interpret a grade if the grade on the report card is based on the student's scores on objective tests.
You mean true and false tests, multiple choice tests like that?
We want to get away from grading by whim or on the basis of the student's attitude, which really in most cases is the teacher's attitude, not that of the students at all. So most of us test frequently. We think it's important to be sure we're getting across basic facts. And we assign letter grades on the basis of the curve. I know you know what I mean, but I'll show you. This means that about 7 to 10% of the class will get A's. About 15% get B's, 50% C's, and so on.
Does this also mean that 15% will get D's and 7% F's? That a certain number of students will have to fail?
Oh, we don't figure percentages to too fine a point. I wouldn't fail 3/16 of a student.
But on the curve, that
Helen,
means...
you're just beginning. And I know how hard it is for you to realize that as a teacher, you have to deal with failure. A child has to experience failure as well as success, or the success won't really mean much to him, and the child won't be ready to face failure later in life.
I think the slow students will just give up if they feel they can never make good grades no matter how hard they try. If so many have to make D's and
Helen, I'm not hard. I cried when I failed my first student. But isn't it easier for everyone if there are rules? Rules that are clearly understood? You're going to have to deal with parents. Could you calm down an angry parent by telling her that her child's grade is based on your feeling about the child? Of course you couldn't. But a parent calms right down if she's shown her child's rank in the class and is then told that the top 7% received A's. And after all, as teachers, we ought to be objective.
I had another question about audiovisual material, films.
We have to file a requisition for films. I'll show you the form.
I looked at several books on Alexander Keppler's paragraphs. Strauss across it. I didn't find stars because I thought they were different.
Class! I'd like to tell you how pleased I am with the results of your last test.
Yes?
Miss Davis, could we ask you some questions to make sure we're doing the right thing?
Yes?
Well, each group is going to study something about colonial life, right? And then we're to compare what they did back then with the way we do things now. That's right?
That's exactly right.
We're going to study about crime and punishment, what they did to witches.
You better save your report for Halloween. Now remember, class, plan ahead for the presentation your group is going to make to the class. Don't just read things out of books. Make the class feel what it was really like to live in colonial days.
How will you grade us? I mean, everybody.
I'll give each group as a whole a grade on its presentation, and you will each be given a chance to evaluate the work in your own group.
I think that's clear. Now I have some information here on the ducking stool. It was sort of like a teeter-totter with a chair on one end, and they put it right by a river or a pond. Any woman who gossiped or scolded too much, they fastened her in the chair and ducked her in.
Charles spent a whole weekend working on this ducking stool and ransacking the house for some of these other things. I've never seen him so busy. And of course, I've never seen the house so torn up either. Oh, really? I'm just acting like the sorely tried mother. To see him so enthusiastic about school. Miss Davis, I really didn't come to school just to pick up these things. I came to tell you what the class meant to Charles. He's so full of ideas. That pillory.
He certainly did work hard on that. Oh. And did you see this?
The modern version of the pillory, the newspaper. We've all been watching the current affairs programs on television since Charles made his class report. Oh, I wanted to ask you one thing. Charles said he had to take the same test twice. Exactly the same.
I gave the same test at the beginning and end of the unit we've been studying. I wanted to get some idea of what the students had learned and their individual improvements. I want to consider so much before I put a grade down on a report card. The scores on tests, the individual's growth and improvement, how he's done in his small groups and on his individual projects. I want somehow to get the whole picture. It's going to be hard making out grades for this class. They've done so well. Class, you've done so well on this assignment. You know, writing a diary about a boy or a girl in colonial times wasn't easy, and I was surprised at how real most of your diaries were. I was particularly frightened with Matt's diary. With the Indian searching the cabin, the boy hiding under the bunk, I thought I was going to be scalped. You know, I'm not only pleased with your work, but I'm proud of what you've done. And I think many of you, too, will be proud next week when report cards come out.
Say, what'd you get? Hey, that's great.
Maple Terrace Junior High School. No, Mrs. Harrison is in her class now. May I have her call you? No, I think she'd better talk to you about it. Yes, I'll tell her. Yes, it's about the grades.
About those grades. Have you talked to Helen about them?
No, I haven't yet, but...
2 parents have been in to see me already. They complained about the grades I gave their children. Said the children in Miss Davis' room were doing so much better.
I know. Several parents have called me, too.
Now, Louise, I know she's new, and I realize she doesn't know much about grading, but there are limits.
It's the first time she's given grades. Charlotte, we all have to learn.
Yes, I suppose we do. But it certainly is hard on other people.
I'm going to talk to Helen this afternoon. The principal's had several calls about the grades. June and Muriel have talked to me about it, too. Charlotte, she means well.
It's the people who mean well.
I know you meant well, Helen, but your grades were higher than those of any other teacher in the school. Several parents have been complaining. That makes the other teachers feel... Oh, Helen, you know none of us here is really hard or cruel. Helen, we want parents to see us as fair and objective.
But that's what I was
Helen, I want to talk the whole problem over with you. We need to explore the basis on which you gave your grades. The real basis. We're just beginning a new grading period, and now's the time to make a change.
To see him so enthusiastic about school.
Today, we have another kind of pillory, the newspaper.
I'm not just pleased, I'm proud.
Helen, could you justify your system of grading, not just to the parents, but to the principal, to the other teachers, to me,